Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Sekiro's skill trees. And I already know some of you guys are going to be looking at this, spoilers, Rurikhan, what are you doing here? And it's like, okay, there's only a close-up shot of Sekiro's face. You're still in time to not get spoiled, okay? So take it easy. Now, some players might consider what I'm about to discuss in this video to be spoiler territory, which is why I want to be particularly careful in how I structure this video. The whole point of it is to show you all of the skill trees and all of the skills in each of the skill trees so that you can kind of plan out how you level up your character if you are still getting started. I'll also give you a couple of tips on each of the skills that I've personally used up until this point. However, it is also important to mention that despite me showing you all the skill trees and all the skills in those skill trees, there are skills that you can get outside the skill trees, but those do not actually require skill points for you to actually get them. So those should not really involve your planning of your build, so to speak, even though there's not really builds in this game because I think you can acquire every single skill in the game. But ultimately, knowing which skill is ahead of you can help you maybe have a bit of an easier time throughout the game if you are struggling. So that is the whole purpose of this video. Now, having said that, at this point, I haven't finished the game yet. I do believe that these are all of the skill trees because I looked online before recording this video and it seems like nobody else has found any other skill trees up until this point. And considering the stuff that is in the final skill tree that I unlocked, it seems to make sense that these would be all of the skill trees. So yeah, the way that I'm going to be doing this is first, I'll show you all the skill trees and all the skills in each of those skill trees so that you can see what is ahead because the game does not reveal all of the skills to you. And after that, I will tell you how you can go about unlocking each of these skill trees. So if you want to leave the video midway, you're like, okay, I know which skill tree I want, but I want to discover how to unlock it. You can leave it halfway and you don't have to get spoiled to that. And then I will also show you some different special techniques in case you guys are curious about those as well. I'm not going to be revealing what those are right now, but you guys will understand as we move forward. So anyway, this is your final warning. We're about to head into the skill trees and talk about all that stuff. So if you haven't left by now, I'm assuming that this is the information you want to know. Let's go. So we're going to go into the Sculptor's Idol here and going to go into Acquire Skills. Okay, so the very first one is Shinobi Arts. The techniques that you have in here, you got the Whirlwind Slash, which is a fairly basic combat art that you can get. You got Mid-Air Deflection on this first tier. This is useful for some enemies. You also got Shinobi's Karma Body. This increases the number of spirit emblems that you can have, and these are actually useful. I haven't invested enough in these kinds of skills, but they are extremely useful. At the very top tier, you got Breath of Life Light. I love this skill. This is basically like life stealing whenever you perform a death blow. It is very useful, particularly if you are farming or when you are progressing through a certain area because it saves you on using your healing gourd and it keeps you in the game a little bit longer before you have to go back to a Sculptor's Idol and reset. There's another Shinobi's Karma Mine here, which extends the number of spirit emblems that can be held. I don't know by how many. I assume it's 3 because I think this one increased it by 3. I actually don't remember, but I don't know exactly how many this increases. Then you got Mid-Air Combat Arts, which I haven't gotten yet, and this is something that I want to get. It's just not a part of my current priorities. I have other skills that I want to get before I get this. But this is a very useful skill in my opinion. Then you got down here at the bottom, the Mikiri counter. This, in my opinion, is a must-have skill. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say that this should be the first thing that you get. This is very important because there are some attacks that you cannot block, thrusting attacks, and you will be able to counter those with this particular technique. And you will notice that enemies that do these kinds of thrusting attacks, they usually tend to be particularly challenging. So this, in my opinion, is something that you should most definitely get as soon as possible. Then you got the Run and Slide. I really like the Run and Slide, but this one, if I'm to be completely honest, is not super important. Like, I like using it because it gives you a little slide that you do. It's not major, but I just like having it, and it only costs 1 skill point, so it's completely up to you. We have Suppress Presence, and if I knew what I know now, I probably wouldn't have gotten this skill. Like, you might think, oh, but I'll be silent, more silence, and more all this stuff. It's like, it's usually fairly easy, at least it has been so far. far for you to get out of harm's way whenever there's a stealth situation. So I don't think that this is particularly important. But then again, I've had it since the beginning of the game almost. So maybe I've just gotten so used to it that whatever. I never got suppressed sound. I would like to get it, but I don't think it's super important. Vault over. Now, this is an interesting one because some of you guys are not going to understand what is the advantage of this particular skill. And I will talk about the advantage of this one later on because this involves a little bit more information. But basically what this does is whenever you break an enemy's posture, it enables you to vault over it. And you're like, but when you break the posture, you can just do a death blow and kill it. You're right. But there are certain things that you can do when you vault over and you get a backstab death blow. And I'll talk more about that later. The other thing here is Shinobi Eyes. Shinobi Eyes increases the posture damage that you do when you do the Mikiri counter, because when you do the Mikiri counter, you're going to deal a significant amount of posture damage to your enemies. And if you get Shinobi Eyes, it's going to be an even more significant amount. I have both of these, and I love them because usually these are the types of enemies that I tend to struggle with the most for whatever reason. So yeah, there's that. And then finally you got Shadow Rush, which is special combat art, which is the one at the very end of the Shinobi arts tree. And I haven't gotten it, I haven't used it, and the reasoning behind that is because this particular art actually consumes spirit emblems, and I'm very careful about the stuff that I have equipped when it consumes spirit emblems. But basically this is a thrust, long range, powerful thrust, and after you hit an enemy with it, you can do a leap. Now again, I'm not particularly sure as to what I would combo this with. I mean, naturally you got mid-air combat art, so you could do this, and then you can do another Shadow Rush, I would imagine, but you know, you're kind of putting yourself in a point where you're just eating up all of your spirit emblems. That is something that you want to do. Having said that, though, being able to do something like a really fast thrusting attack onto your enemies is particularly important in a lot of situations. So I can see Shadow Rush being really good. Also, you can still do, I think, at least from the description of the skill, because I haven't used it yet, you can still do Shadow Rush even if you don't have spirit emblems. So there's that. Now let's take a look at the next skill tree here. We have Prosthetic Arts. The very first one is Chasing Slice. This one is really good because it gives you a gap closer onto your enemies so long as you are using the Shuriken tool. But in my opinion, it is not as important as the grappling hook attack. The grappling hook attack, in my opinion, you get this as fast as you can because there are several enemies that you can punish by using this particular move. And I found it to be extremely useful throughout my playthroughs. As a matter of fact, I found it to be extremely useful even early on the game. So it's like, out of all the stuff we talked about so far, I would definitely advise you to get, at the very least, Mikiri counter as fast as possible. And then I would try to get grappling hook attack. But that's my personal opinion. To each his own and all that stuff. It's going to depend on the stuff that you personally want. Then we have Fang and Blade. Fang and Blade is also something that I would advise you guys to get when you can, because this is particularly useful, particularly for the loaded axe prosthetic, because it does enable you to perform a follow-up move after you use the loaded axe, and that enables you to do a lot of posture damage. There's been a lot of enemies that are particularly tough, and I will just destroy them by using the loaded axe followed with Fang and Blade. Really, really, really good technique. Then you also have mid-air prosthetic tool. This one's, for me, I wouldn't say that I've really capitalized on being able to use, these tools mid-air, but I needed to get this in order to unlock all the things so that I could see what was at the end of the tree. So I got it, and I have used it on a couple of situations, but I wouldn't say that it's like a mandatory skill to have. Then in here you have the Nightjar Slash. I got this. This would have been one of the things that I would not have gotten initially, because despite the fact that I really do like Living Force, which we'll talk about in a bit, and you do need to get pretty much almost everything on the goddamn tree in order to get Living Force, the Nightjar Slash, in my opinion, would be something that I would have left very much to the end of things. Now, this is useful because I believe that you can use this to counter low sweep attacks. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't used it in a while. But you should be able to use this to counter low sweep attacks. But at the same time, it's just not a skill that I've used all that much. There are other skills that I consider to be much better. Then you have Emma's Medicine. Now, this one is a passive, and basically it just increases the amount of healing that you get from the gourd. I haven't felt the need for it up until the point that I am in the game. The default gourd heals just fine. Another Emma's Medicine, Aroma, again, increases the healing effects of recovery items. Actually, this is of all recovery items. It's not just a gourd. It's also your healing pellets, I would imagine. So yeah, all of this stuff gives you increased healing. Then you have the Nightjar Slash Reversal, which I believe this enables you to do a reverse version of the Nightjar Slash, which, like I said, I didn't really care that much for the Nightjar Slash. So doing a reversal of it, I'm like, eh. Again, do remember that this is still my first playthrough, so there's still a lot of stuff that I'm not super familiar with, but these two skills, I wouldn't really bother too much with them. Then you got Two Sculptor's Karma, which basically increases the amount of spirit emblems that you can have. Again, these are passive. These are good, but again, I've prioritized other things. It all depends on how much you plan on actually using your prosthetics in quick succession. Up until this point, I haven't felt the need for these. But again, it all is going to depend on playstyle. If you rely more than I do on your prosthetics, you might want to get these two skills. Then you got Projected Force. This one's cool to use with a loaded umbrella, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's mandatory. Like, you know, the Fang and Blade, really like Fang and Blade. Projected Force, haven't used it as often. But having said that, there are certain enemies that will be considerably easier after you get the loaded umbrella, and this gives you a nice follow-up attack after that. So it's going to depend on a case-by-case basis, but I would definitely value the Fang and Blade more than Projected Force at this point in time, but, you know, varies from person to person. Then you have Living Force. After using certain prosthetic tools, you will basically be able to follow it up with a special attack, kind of like Fang and Blade. Now, the thing that I like about this is that this doesn't actually consume spirit emblems, and it's a passive skill. This is not an actual combat art, so you can have a combat art and Living Force at the same time, which is pretty damn sweet, which makes this one of the skills that I most definitely want to get, but again, not necessarily a priority for me. It's going to depend, again, on your playstyles and all that stuff. I do feel it is important to mention something that I haven't mentioned yet. Whenever you have a skill like, for instance, Projected Force, where you see that it's got two skills linking to it, you're going to need to have both skills in order to equip this skill. So, for instance, say you get Chasing Slice. After Chasing Slice, it gets Fang and Blade. You cannot unlock Projected Force. You need to unlock Midair Prosthetic Tool so that you can then unlock Projected Force, okay? So whenever something has two skills behind it, you need to unlock both of them. So very much like Living Force. In order to get Living Force, you're going to need to get Chasing Slice, Fang and Blade, Midair Prosthetic Tool, Projected Force, Grappling Hook Attack, Nightjar Slash, Emma's Medicine Potency, Nightjar Slash Reversal, and only then you can get Living Force, which is why it's so many skill points to get the Living Force that is one of the reasons I'm not really prioritizing yet. So that's your prosthetic arts tree. Next, we have the Ashina arts tree. Now, this one does have a pretty cool move that I have used, but I probably wouldn't have used it now that I know all of the skills that are available to you. I probably would have held off on this because there is another skill that I like way more. But either way, Ichimonji is basically an art that you can charge. You can charge it right from the start, right? Yeah, hold R1 plus L1 plus R1 on the Ichimonji. So you can charge this attack, and it does a lot of posture damage. And the cool thing is that if you happen to like it, they have an improved version here, which is the Ichimonji Double, which follows it up with another quick attack that prevents enemies from countering you after you do the first attack. Because this kind of leaves you open while you are charging it, and it's going to leave you a little bit open after you hit it. So if an enemy is fast enough, they're going to be able to punish you. However, if you get the Ichimonji Double, they won't be able to punish you. But again, from my experience with the game, it's like, this is a very powerful skill. Don't sleep on this skill. Because like I've used a lot of the skills in different situations, and Ichimonji is definitely one of the more powerful ones. So if you want like a beefy charged up attack, you should get this. But personally, there is, again, another attack that I like way more. Then we got the Descending Carp. Now, this is passive, but basically, I would advise guys to get both of these. What this does is this one increases the damage infliction to posture when you perform a successful deflection. So when you get a deflection, it is going to deal more posture damage. This one increases your damage to posture after you get a deflection. So like every damage that you do after you get a successful deflection increases posture damage. So these two skills, I would definitely get both of them. So it's like you get the Ichimonji just to get these two skills at the very least. This I would definitely advise you to do. The double Ichimonji, I probably wouldn't have got that. But then you got Breath of Nature Light. I don't even remember what this does. Recovers posture after executing a successful death blow. Don't think this is particularly important. At least I haven't really been in a situation up until this point that I've needed to do this. Where it was like, oh, dude, if only I had a little bit more posture, I would have been perfectly fine. Usually I'm good. But then again, like I said, I haven't finished the game yet, so it might become important. But yeah, that's all it does. Recovers posture when you execute a death blow. Then you got Flowing Water, which reduces the amount of damage to posture when attacked by an enemy with a sword. So this is when you're blocking sword attacks. Again, up until this point in the game, I would not say this is particularly important, but I haven't beaten everything yet. You got the Ichimonji double, which I told you guys about. It's an Ichimonji with a follow-up attack. These are just two overhead slashes, by the way. It's like you charge it up, slash overhead, and then slash overhead again. Like the most simplistic overhead slash that you can think of. That's what Ichimonji is. But yeah, this one reduces the damage of posture when attacked by an enemy with a sword. And then finally, you got the Ashina Cross. Now, I've heard that this one is really good. I haven't used it yet because it costs spirit emblems. And like I said, I usually use my spirit emblems on my prosthetics. But this is like the final attack of the Ashina skill tree. And I do believe that this is pretty friggin' powerful. It's one of those, I think you call them Edo techniques, right? When you unsheath the katana, and when you do the attack from a sheathing position. So yeah, it's sweet for all of you guys that like that kind of stuff. But again, you should keep in mind that it does cost spirits. I don't know how many it costs. Is it 5? No, 5 is the skill points that you need. I don't know how many spirit emblems it actually costs, but it is a pretty cool skill if it's something that you want to use. So either way, from this skill tree, at the very least, you should get the carp skills because they're really good. Then you got Temple Arts, and this is the one that I really like. I love this skill tree. It's super simple, but it's got a really cool move, and that cool move is also at the end of the tree, and it does not actually cost spirit emblems, and it's pretty damn powerful. So you got the Praying Strikes, which, if I'm to be honest, I haven't, and I've never even used it yet because I've just been using the other skill that you get from this tree. Then, but Praying Strikes is basically elbow and arm attacks. It's a flurry of attacks, so you can do probably a couple of attacks after you do this. And then you got Praying Strikes Exorcism, which allows you to throw yourself onto an enemy and knock them away, which this is a skill that I haven't tested out yet. And at the very end, you got Devotion, which increases the amount of time a Buddhist candy is effective when used. So this is like candy that you get throughout the game, which increases your attack or increases your posture, increases your vitality. There's even candy that increases how stealthy you can be, which again, see, that's another one of those things where you might be thinking, oh, dude, it's going to be so cool to be, able to be more stealthy. There's candy that does that for you as well, which is why, again, that skill kind of loses a lot of value for me there. But again, I don't know how important that skill is going to be in the long run. But this one just extends how long your buffs last. And I would consider it to be important if you want to rely on buffs, because buffs don't actually last that long. Then you got Virtuous Deed, which increases the amount of money you get, as well as it improves item drop rates. So this is just straight up magic find. And it's cool, but I would not necessarily say, oh, you should definitely get it, because there are other means of acquiring more drops in the game. beyond this skill. The reason you want to get this skill, though, is to get to the Senpu leaping kicks. This is friggin' awesome. Your character just jumps up in the air and you start doing kicks onto the enemy, and you can kind of follow it up with more kicks. And I really, really like this art. And the cool thing about this art is that it also enables you to counter the sweeping attacks, which is one of my weak points. So basically, in combination with the Mikiri counter, this enables you to always punish one of those bosses that does thrusting attacks and sweeping attacks, so long as you can identify when those thrusting or sweeping attacks are coming at you. Then you got Most Virtuous Deed, which just basically does more of what Virtuous Deed does. It increases the amount of sen and enemy drop rates that you can get. So yeah, Senpu leaping kicks is awesome. And then you got the High Monk, which basically combines Senpu leaping kicks with a couple of blade attacks with a couple of more kicks weaved in between. And this is the skill that I'm using right now, the combat art that I'm using right now. Because like I said, the cool thing about this art is that it doesn't actually require you to use spirit emblems. And that, in my opinion, is pretty damn sweet. And then finally, we have the Mushin arts. Now, the Mushin arts are basically something that follows up on previous skills that you get. So you guys are looking at this and you can probably recognize some of these skills. Like here's the High Monk, which we get from Temple Arts, which is the only one of the skills that I have unlocked on that one. But basically, whenever you unlock a skill at the end of these other 4 trees, it shows up here on the Mushin arts. Okay, you can see you got Shadow Rush here, which is from the Shinobi Arts tree. You also have the Ashina Cross, which is from the Ashina tree, and Living Force from the Prosthetic tree. Okay, and then you can upgrade these skills to become better. So if you get the High Monk and Shadow Rush, you can get Shadow Fall, which it's basically an evolution of Shadow Rush. This is a secret technique of the Ashina Mushin compound style. You leap into the skies with a Shadow Rush, and you can then do a spinning sword attack as you descend, pierce, fly, and then dive back down. Jumping off the enemy costs Spirit Emblems. So this is still going to cost you Spirit Emblems because the start of this technique is the Shadow Rush. Then you got the Spiral Cloud Passage, which requires you to unlock both Shadow Rush and the Ashina Cross. This one seems particularly powerful. Spiral Sword Technique that unleashes powerful shockwaves costs Spirit Emblems to use. Its namesake comes from a large, eddy, distant cloud forming near the headwaters, the Fountainhead Spiral. So, yeah, this one you just kind of like, you follow it up with a bunch of more attacks after you do it. It's 9 consecutive attacks. That's a lot. That's quite a lot. It's quite a commitment. Then you got the Empowered Mortal Draw. Now, I'm just thinking about, whatever. I mean, we're going to be talking about the Mortal Draw, so if this one has some lore implications a little bit, I don't think it's super heavy, but yeah, basically if you get Living Force and Ashina Cross, you get Empowered Mortal Draw, and that is a special attack that allows you to kill a certain type of enemy in the game. Okay? But these are all of the skill trees in the game. Like I said, these are not all of the skills. So anyway, at this point, I will be showing you what the Empowered Mortal Draw does. So if that is something that you do not want to be spoiled to, you might want to leave, because this is probably going to reveal some information that you might not want to know at this point. So just letting guys know, and that's enough time for you. Boom. Acquires combat art and Empowered Mortal Draw, secret technique using the Mortal Blade. Costs Spirit Emblems to use. By focusing one's mind before unsheathing the Mortal Blade, one can draw additional power, resulting in a longer range, more powerful slash attack. Draw the sword that cannot be drawn and unleash its devastation. So this is a special sword that you get later in the game that has lower implications. I'm not really going to be talking too much about that sword in this video. But yeah, this is basically a more powerful version of an attack that you can do with that special sword, and it is going to completely wreck certain types of enemies in the game. So anyway, now let's talk about how you can go about unlocking each of these skill trees if you are so interested in doing so. So the very first one, and by the way, if you do not want to know how to unlock these skill trees, This is another spoiler warning right there. This would be a good time to leave the video. Okay, you good? Let's continue. So the very first one, Shinobi Arts. How do you go about unlocking this? Well, when you level up and get your first skill point, you just have to come over to the sculptor. You talk with the sculptor, and after you talk with the sculptor, he will give you the text that unlocks that particular skill tree. Okay? That's how you unlock that. Next skill tree would be the Prosthetic Arts, right? Let me just double check that. Acquire skill. Prosthetic Arts. So how do you unlock Prosthetic Arts? You pick up 3 different prosthetic tools. Once you pick up 3 different prosthetic tools, you come up here, talk to the sculptor. He will unlock the prosthetic skill tree. Okay? If you guys are curious where you can quickly find some prosthetic tools, like you'll very early on in the game find the Shuriken prosthetic tool. It's almost impossible to miss. So you'll find one there, and then once you get the bell, there's a bell that you will get at some point in the game. You bring that bell over to a Buddha statue over there, and after you do that, that's going to open up a whole new area for you. Make sure to investigate the right sides of that area, because like that area is going to be divided into like you're going to have a main corridor and then a left side and a right side. Fully always investigate the right sides of that area, and there are two prosthetic tools there that you can bring back to the sculptor, and that will unlock your 3 prosthetic tools, and it will enable you to unlock the that particular skill tree. Then we got Ashina Arts. Now for Ashina Arts, we're going to be traveling to a special location. So again, I'm trying to do this with as little spoilers as possible, but this next one we're going to be moving onto a location that I haven't shown you in the channel yet. So it's completely up to you if that is something that you want to know or not. So you want to go to the Ashina Castle Gate. Now this is a location that you will unlock after you defeat a specific boss that I'm not going to be talking about. But after you defeat that boss, you're going to unlock this specific sculptor's idol. And there will be a character here which will teach you this particular art. Now, this is where you actually fight the boss. This is the boss arena. I'm just going to be running through here real quickly to show you where the character is. That character is not going to be there now because I've already progressed through the story beyond that point. But the first time that you defeat that boss, you come in here, and there will be a character in here. I think he's on these steps. He's either on the steps or he's looking over this body or something along that nature. You talk with that character, and that character will tell you something about rats. He'll say, oh, there are these rats that are infested in the Ashina Castle or something along that nature. And after he does that, basically you have to go and... Actually, I can kind of show you, because that area is locked off to me now because of lore reasons, but I can just get you Nightjar Monocle. So the first time that you come through here, mistakes were made. First time that you come through here, that door is going to be open. So you go through that door, and the important thing is once you start progressing through the level, there's an area off to the side there. And you guys see, I think it's this tree right here in the middle. And you should find the rats that the character is talking about, which are these small little dudes with straw hats. You'll find those close to this tree. So just explore that area around there, and you should find like at least 3 of those guys, go in there, kill them, and then after you do that, you can come back here, talk with him, and he will unlock the Ashina skill tree for you, okay? So, now that we've done that, let me just pop a homeward idol. Okay, so for the temple arts, you're going to have to go to a location called Senpo Temple, which I'm not going to tell you exactly how to get there. I'm going to let you figure that part out by yourself. But the particular location that you're looking for is the main hall. And I'm going to actually show you the path to go and get this particular skill, just in case you can't figure it out for yourself, or you missed it throughout your exploration, or for whatever reason, doesn't really matter. I will show you the exact path that you have to take in order to get the esoteric text that will unlock the temple skill tree for you. So this is going to involve a little bit of gameplay here. So this is the main hall. location in Senpo Temple, and basically you go to the left here and immediately exit out to the left, and there's going to be this opening into a cave-like location. There's going to be a monk here. I'm going to try to kill him as fast as possible. I'm doing quite a bit of damage right now, so I can just destroy these monks, but I'm going to be skipping most of these enemies, mostly for convenience sake and in the interest of time. But as you can see, there's like a secret passage off to the left. You want to take that as fast as you can. Then you got this dude over here. Kill him just to get him out of the way. Then you can run past pretty much everything else. Go down here. You can see the slide skill in effect there. I do use it, but like I said, I don't think it's particularly mandatory, but I do like using it. So in here you have a climbable thing. Now there's going to be a bunch of more enemies in here. You don't actually have to fight them. You go straight ahead. And then here you can jump. And further ahead you can jump again. And once you get here, it's going to be in this large building directly in front of you. I don't think there's any more enemies, but the esoteric text will be in here. Once you get that, that will unlock your temple arts. And then finally, we have the Mushin, which we will go to the dilapidated temple again. Have the Mushin arts, and in order to unlock the Mushin arts, you're going to be... Oh, crap. I don't think I can actually show you guys this. Damn. But okay, it's actually not a big problem. The reason I can't show you is because the place where I am in progression right now has certain portions of the game locked for me, but I can still tell you where the character that gives you this is going to be. And all you got to do is you got to teleport yourself there, because you will naturally progress through that particular area as you play through the game itself. But basically, in order for you to unlock the Mushin Arts tree, which is this one, you're going to need to acquire at least one of the secret techniques. Now, the secret techniques is anything that is at the end of any of the other trees. So you got the High Monk, the Ashina Cross, the Living Force, or Shadow Rush. You need to get one of these skills before you can unlock the Mushin skill tree, okay? Which, I mean, is important because basically if you don't have one of those skills, it's not like you can actually do anything in a Mushin skill tree anyway, right? So once you unlock one of these skills, like I said, the Shadow Rush, the Living Force, the Ashina Cross, or the High Monk, then you're going to want to travel to this location in Ashina Castle, the Great Serpent Shrine. And once you teleport here, there should be a character here, which is the same character that you have met at the castle gates that I talked about previously. And that character, if you have learned one of the secret techniques, he will teach you the Mushin text, which will tell you which you can then use to upgrade the final skill tree. So those are all of the skill trees that you can get. There is, however, another thing that is somewhat important and that I've also unlocked. I'm going to show you guys some of the skills that I've unlocked so far at this point, but from this point onwards, it's not really complete because I haven't finished the game yet. I haven't unlocked all of the things yet. I have no idea how many things I'm missing, but I still would like to show you a couple of different things that you can get throughout the game. So let's take a look at our skills here. So Whirlwind Slash, you get that from your skill tree. Nightjar Slash, same thing. Ichimonji and Ichimonji double as well. Praying Strike also comes from the skill tree. Senpu Leaping Kicks, also from the skill tree. High Monk, Floating Passage, however, that's a new one. You get this by unlocking it from the Treasure Carp dude, which you should run into him if you do proper exploration in the memory. And then Mortal Draw, which you get from the Mortal Blade. These are two additional skills that I've unlocked, and I'm pretty sure there's plenty more, okay? There's not just combat arts, by the way, because these are combat art skills. Those are not the only things that you unlock. There's also passive ones. So, like, for instance, you got Shinobi Martial Arts, Mikiri Counter, Midair Deflection, Run and Slide, Grappling Hook, Midair Prosthetic. All of these are in your skill tree. However, Anti-Air Death Blow. You get this from a vendor in Ashina Castle. This enables you to just flat out jump onto an enemy that's in the middle of the air and kill him. I don't think it works on bosses, though. Haven't really tested it out too much. Chasing Slice comes from your skill tree, Fang and Blade skill tree, Projected Force skill tree, but Anti-Air Death Blow is pretty damn powerful. It's just, at least from my experience, it's very hard to use, but it's definitely something that you want to get. Then you also have latent skills. These are all passive skills that you can get. Suppress Presence, Shinobi Eyes, Ascending Carp, Descending Carp, Breath of Life, Light, Breath of Nature, Shadow. These are all... actually, these are all skills that you get from the skill tree. Breath of Nature, Shadow, though, I'm pretty sure I got that from something else. Because, yeah, I didn't get the skill that recovers posture from Death Bow from the skill tree, so I'm pretty sure this was from killing a boss or something. Virtuous Deed is the one that I got from skill tree. Shinobi Medicine Ranks, these are all from killing bosses. Shinobi Karma's Body, this is from the skill tree. Mibu Breathing Technique, okay, this one, let's not even talk about that one. And then finally, Ninjutsu Techniques. This is where I wanted to get to. These you unlock by doing a couple of different things. Blood Smoke Ninjutsu is after you defeat a certain boss in Ashina Castle. It is a pretty important boss, and you will have to run into him in your natural progression of the game. And once you get there, you'll understand what I'm talking about. He fires lightning from the air, if that helps people understand who that is. So you get this after you defeat him. And what this does is after you backstab someone, you can then make them explode in a puff of smoke, and you yourself will be hidden. Like, all the enemies will be alerted to your presence, but they don't actually know where you are. So this enables you to go around someone else and backstab them. Now, the problem with this technique is that it costs 6 spirit emblems. But if you guys remember, a while back we talked about a specific skill. Not sure if you guys remember that. And I told you that you would be confused as to why this skill would be important, the vault over skill. Because you're like, well, I mean, if I break the posture of an enemy, why would I want to vault over him? And the ninjutsu techniques is why. Because you can't apply a ninjutsu technique with a frontal death blow. It has to be a backstab. So if you break someone's posture and then you vault over them, you can then apply a backstab, which you can then use to trigger a ninjutsu technique. Which is pretty fucking sweet. I don't have vault over, but I do think it's a pretty sweet thing to do. Because basically that means, like, say you got 5 enemies in front of you. You go in there, break the posture off of one, and before you actually stab him, you jump above him, backstab him from behind, get the blood smoke ninjutsu, and then you can backstab everybody else, which is friggin' sweet. Then there's the puppeteer ninjutsu. This one's actually required for you to progress throughout the game. You get this by defeating the folding screen monkeys. Now, this is a boss that you will run into at some point throughout Senpo Temple. You'll get teleported to a different place, and there you'll have to fight the folding screen monkeys. After you kill them, you get the puppeteer ninjutsu, which is, like I said, required for you to actually progress in the game. What this does is basically you mind control an enemy. So if you're able to backstab an enemy, you can mind control them, and they will attack other enemies for you. And it can be really, really useful. It's not only useful to actually progress through the game, it can also be useful in combat situations. And finally, the Bestowal Ninjutsu, which I haven't gotten yet because I just unlocked this one last night. You get this from killing a boss. However, this boss is optional. This is a boss that you will fight in the Ashina depths, and it is after you have an encounter with a certain big white creature that you can find that creature later in the Ashina depths. That's pretty much all I'm gonna... Is it Ashina depths? Yeah, it is Ashina depths. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, this one basically gives you a special attack with the Mortal Blade. It's crazy shit. I haven't really seen this one yet. But yeah, and these are all of the techniques and all of the things that I've unlocked so far. Hopefully I've done this in a way that enables a lot of people to actually see only what they want to see instead of getting spoiled to things that they didn't want it to know. So let me know what you guys think about all these skills. Let me know how you're enjoying Sekiro up until this point. Thank you very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit it up with a like. If you didn't enjoy the video, hit it up with a dislike. Either way, what's important is that you guys rate because it helps out a lot. If you guys are new here, subscribe. There will be more Sekiro videos moving forward. I'm still figuring out the type of content that I'm doing, but this is the type of thing that I definitely wanted to do when I first saw the skill trees. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think about that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.